All right, join me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend David Dayen. David is an independent journalist whose work you can find at davedayen.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at ddayen. David, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Matthew, thanks for having me.
All right, so David, you recently wrote a piece for The Guardian on how one of the biggest housing relief programs of the Obama administration has tragically been a colossal failure. You actually follow a family in Florida, and what happened to them is downright infuriating. Tell us all about it.
Sure. The program is called the Hardest Hit Fund. As you know, there was a large pot of money between $50 and $75 billion that was allocated from TARP, the bank bailout program, and that money was supposed to go to homeowners to help them stay in their homes, to avoid foreclosure. And the Hardest Hit Fund came around in around 2010 and said, okay, in the hardest hit states, in the 18 states that have the biggest foreclosure problem, we're going to allocate $7.6 billion to those states just as an extra to make sure they can help their residents avoid foreclosure. What they did was they took this $7.6 billion and they said, all right, states, you come up with the program of how to deal with this. Basically washing their hands of it and sort of devolving it down to the states. You know, Republicans have been saying that this is how we should do things like food stamps or
Right.
Other anti-poverty programs, that we just let the states deal with it. Just give them money, and they're best equipped to deal with it. Well, here's what happened when we did that in the realm of foreclosure prevention. The states came up with horrible programs, is what happened. The states that are most inclined to really not help their citizens in other respects didn't really help their citizens in the issue of foreclosure prevention. I look at the system in Florida, where $1 billion was granted for these foreclosure reduction programs. Only about 13% has been spent. A third of that on administrative expenses, so that doesn't even go to the homeowners. And the bigger problem is that it turned into a thing that was contracted and subcontracted, and it became very confusing for homeowners to navigate. And even worse than that, homeowners were getting bad advice. Almost unlicensed practice of law, which is what the family in my story has charged, being told that as long as the program, they sign up initially for the program, that the bank has to stop foreclosure, when that actually wasn't the case. In my case, the Camels, who were the family in Tarpon Springs, Florida, were told by the Hardest Hit Fund counselors, who were a subcontractor, that they were approved for the program, and their bank, Third Federal, could definitely not foreclose on them. They were even told they didn't have to get a lawyer for the final judgment of foreclosure, which was coming up for them, because once they're in this program, the foreclosure process has to be frozen. Well, that really wasn't the case. So the bank got the final judgment of foreclosure. They decided that they had more, that, you know, the Camels owed them more money than they were given through the Hardest Hit program. They summarily sent back the money from Hardest Hit and immediately threw the Camels into foreclosure when they would have been able to maybe seek other opportunities, rather than go without a lawyer to the final judgment, at which point the bank doesn't have to do anything else to pursue foreclosure. The other problem is that Hardest Hit, by their own admission in Florida, doesn't check how the arrearages, how the money owed by the bank, that the bank says that the homeowner owes them, they don't check to see if those are legitimate expenses or not. And of course, this is one of the major problems that we've seen in the housing market, is fee pyramiding and unlawful expenses that are thrown onto the homeowner. Just sort of larded on as a way to squeeze more money out of them. So if the Hardest Hit isn't checking it, the bank sort of has free rein to add on funds. And if you did an itemization of what they said that the Camels owed and what they were saying just several weeks earlier, the numbers don't add up. It's a situation where there's very little oversight. The people who are dealing with this program are really not equipped to do it. They're giving bad advice. They're giving, they're engaging in the unlicensed practice of law, and it's become a really terrible situation for homeowners in Florida who see this program as a potential lifeline.
And what was even more tragic is the family you talked about actually made it through the housing crisis. This is actually something that happened more recently, that they were tossed into this mess that actually cost them their home.
Yeah, in the case of the Camels, they in 2012, the husband had 4 heart attacks or 4 surgeries for heart attacks in two months, and the wife at the same time lost her job. So they went from a 2-income family to a 0-income family for a while, and that's what this hardest hit fund was supposed to prevent. It was supposed to deal with people who have been thrust into unemployment, who now had the threat of having their home taken from them at the same time, and it's just not doing the job in terms of reaching its goal of foreclosure prevention. And there's some serious questions there about how we deal with these programs at the federal level, and we just devolve them down to the states, and then the states do a terrible job with them, and who's held accountable for that.